Hey everyone, hey and welcome back to yet another episode of Battle Rap Resume. We are doing a classic event rewind, and this is the first international one, so this is pretty exciting. If you're not familiar with the concept, we go through a classic event, go through all the battles, pretty much in order that they happened on the day. These episodes were a little bit more guesswork on my part, but I was going from, you know, most known to less known sort of thing, so I think it's going to be quite clear. So yeah, we've done 4th birthday in the past with Kieran, we did To The Test 7 with the man Pamphlet, we did To The Test 10 with Sean, and now we're doing World Dom 2. We're doing our first ever King of the Dot one. And just before we get into today's guest and all the battles, please follow the show, as I always say, at Battle Rap Resume. Get in touch with me if you want to come on, maybe you want to do a classic event rewind, or you want to do whatever. battlerapresume@gmail.com. Please leave us a review on iTunes. Support us on Patreon if you want to give back to the show, if you enjoy the show. And yeah, subscribe, comment, share, all those sort of generic YouTube things that everyone says. It's not just myself, it is my gesticulations partner, Jonathan Rimmer. John, how's it going, man?
Yeah, how you doing, man? What's up?
I'm good, man. And I mean, it was your idea actually to go back through this event. I obliged because it's one of the classic Battle Rap events, no question. World Dom 2, what was your choice here? Why did you pick that one?
It's a funny one because when I think I first got into sort of a cappella sort of battle rap, or battle rap as a whole, properly around about when this event happened, or the battle started dropping. So it would have been about 2011 summer sort of time. And I don't know what it is about. There's been a few World Domination events, and I always felt like this was the best one. And people like to, we love to think about like what would be a good sort of World Cup of battle rap. But I think this event to me is the closest we've got to a genuine World Cup event for like battles from around the world, because a lot of the World Doms since then have just, tend to be North American battlers with the odd sort of British guy coming through. Whereas this one, there's guys from Philippines, Norway, Sweden. I think there was supposed to be someone from, I think Redza from Ireland was supposed to go across. Mexico, Canada, America, obviously as well, and then also there's probably a couple I'm forgetting. But I always loved that this event was the closest. They really made an effort with that sort of thing, and nobody's kind of embarrassing either. It's all kind of good names from these places, and yeah, there's just lots of stuff I like about it as well. I think there's a timeless feel to this event as well. It's very well shot. The wee touches to it that just, I don't know, I like the way the crowd, you can kind of still see them in the background, kind of almost like Don't Flop style, but with the kind of
the crowd, the risers as well. It gives it such a close, intimate feel. But there's so many people there.
Yeah, just with the crowd up the back, you can see them, and also just the little sort of characters that you associate with battle rap are all kind of in the pit or judging or whatever. And you've got Avocado's laugh, trademark,
ubiquitous. Yeah.
And I think just the lighting's good, just the way it was edited as well. I mean, we'll get onto some of the issues they had well. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I liked this. There's a lot of. I feel like the crowd are actually really enjoying it. This is one of the better Canadian crowds, and I just always really loved the sort of the interviews as well before the battles, because really added to the sort of personality of the event. And
definitely.
Yeah.
I remember that really impressed me, not only the interviews before, but the interviews after, the long judging that they give as well, which really legitimise it. This went down, I should say, Friday and Saturday, August 5th and 6th on 2011. It's in Club XS, which is on 261 Richmond Street, for anyone interested. And yeah, this is World Dom 2, North America versus the world, is sort of how they build it. And it's interesting looking at the card, a few things didn't go down. HFK versus Redza, as you mentioned. Cap Callis was supposed to battle Shotty, which I'm not sure again why that didn't go down. 100 Bullets versus Word of Play, who's quite an old school name. Ketchup was supposed to battle Chilla Jones. Can't say I know who Ketchup is, but I'm sure Chilla would have done the most badass condiment scheme you ever would have heard in your entire life.
I was going to say, that's probably why you took it in the first place. It's just like, dude named Ketchup, I'm battling that guy.
I'm down.
But yeah, it was a good card. I think Shotty didn't make it because I think some issues with his passport or something like that. Because I remember you saying he couldn't make it until World Dom 3, and he said I'm sorry that I couldn't make it before.
Yeah, when he battled Fingers and had one of the greatest overseas debuts I've ever seen in battle rap. Like, Jesus Christ, he made fans of everyone in that room. So yeah, as I say, we're going to be going through battle by battle. There's so many battles, so we're not necessarily going to be doing the patented battle rap resume bar for bar kind of thing. We'll point out things of interest, of course, and there are some incredible writing clashes that I definitely want to discuss. I want to say also in the comments, Let us know your favourite World Dom 2 moments, your favourite battles. Were you even there? You know, because it seems like quite heralded. You know, it's very popular in that regard, and people reminiscing back. And we'll start off with the first battle. This is Kaliente versus Uno Lavoz.
Organic hit me up like, you about to battle Caliente. That's how I know this is slaughter. And your fucking teeth look like every day of your life you've been chewing quarters.
Oh, you think you're a bad guy, you're Team Evil? Bunch of makeup artists, even hanging with the right clique, couldn't save this target. This choice wasn't the smartest, you paying for this. A swordsman, Terrence and Phillip, how your face get parted. Yo!
I wasn't too familiar with Kaliente, and he's got a bit of an attitude problem, right?
Yeah, yes. It's weird this because so yeah, we're doing this in order, and I've obviously chose this event. Like, yeah, this is such a classic event. You kind of want to hit people in, and the first battle that we're discussing is not one of my favorites at all. But it's entertaining. But I don't know. Did they have beef beforehand or something? So because Caliente, he turns his back to Uno Lavoz in this battle and doesn't really. I don't know. I've taken a few notes on it, but it's just. It's weird. I just feel like Caliente just kind of shouts and he gets cheers for not very much. Yeah. So maybe that's why he was matched with Uno.
Maybe. I mean, Uno's pretty fucked, you know, to begin with. I like how he shouts out all of his guys and gets like a roll of paper out and shouts at everyone. You know, it's quite a funny gag. Quite sort of Andy Kaufman style there.
All his list of people.
Yeah, all his list of people. And he says to Caliente, you're about to get bodied, you know, and he's quite arrogant in the beginning. And it's kind of vintage 2011 Uno. Your mum's got arthritis, she takes a shit standing up, and, you know, people laughing before the lines are even finished. He just has that personality, doesn't he, that endears him to this sort of crowd.
Yeah, I would say how your enjoyment of this battle it depends on where you stand on Uno's style, because it's one of his looser kind of performances. So he's a guy who says what and repeats it. Do you know what I mean? And I don't know. I feel like some of the images here he kind of lets dangle, and then he doesn't really complete the rhyme or the bar or whatever. He just sort of says stuff. And you're right. He says something that he says your mum has a fake leg with real toenails. Yeah. He says something else, your mum be eating hot dogs and spamming church with a boogie hanging, which is just...
yeah, just gibberish, literally, yeah.
It's descriptive, but...
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, I feel like... He does have what I love as well, you know, his one line where he shouts all this sort of nonsense, and he goes, the only person that would say Cali is hot is an LA news reporter.
Let's go.
You're like, that's a real bar.
Yeah.
And then it's just back to your mum. It's just like, it's almost as if he stumbled onto being an actual rapper by accident. I just remembered that. I don't know how much of that stuff he does actually right, and then the rest of it's sort of just drunken stumbles depending on what he remembers. But I don't know, maybe there's a few bars creep through, because he does have the odd battle where he's, you know, go, wow, that was actually fire just out of nowhere. So, yeah, I've noted down one of the weaker battles from the event.
Certainly is. I mean, Caliente, I remember doing a video ages and ages ago, top 10 most disliked King of the Dot battles, and him versus Warbucks was on there. And he is one of these also-rans that has sort of been around the scene. I think he's not battled since 2014. And yeah, he does have that, you know, putting his back up, which I sort of did to Briggsy, so I can't really cast too much shade on it. You know, I am Caliente-esque in that regard. But yeah, Caliente stuff is quite boring. It's quite generic, you know, Mexican bars, etc. And I like how Uno's rocking a cloth around his mouth like a gang member during this round. I mean, Caliente wins... It's not the most technical battle. It's entertaining to a certain level, but compared to what World Dom 2 is, John, you know, it's a bit of an outlier.
Yeah, I suppose, Caliente probably does win. I feel like the crowd like him, but he's not... He kind of almost descends to Uno's level with the lowbrow stuff, but is not as likable as Uno, so it's just kind of like, you're not really rooting for him. And he has all these... His first round's okay, but then he has a bunch of stumbles, and he's just got all these shitty kind of Mexican jokes in the second, and you're like, whatever, man. Like, he's not a guy... He's not a battle you're going to go... I don't know what he's thinking, almost, behaving the way he does, because he's not like, oh yeah, I really want to check out all your battles now, man. You seem like a really likable sort of guy. I don't know.
Yeah. Next up is Deffinition versus D-Lor.
If he went to jail, he wouldn't plan a prison escape. He'd be letting his mates use his intimate space for shipping their weight, putting bricks in his waist on cigarette breaks, and smuggling arms up this pussy like tentacle rape.
If you really love rap, you wouldn't make sound at all. It's like I just made you take a day out in court. Judge Hammer here, time to lay down the law. You're ignored. You said grind time's dead, so being big's not an option. Cause since you've done that snake shit, the Rex gone and blocked him. He still hits his Facebook up daily, comment dropping like I sent you friend requests back in autumn. You must not have got him.
Now, obviously, got so much love for Deffinition. Actually, co-host a podcast with Deffinition. Check out Watching the Watchmen if you're interested in anything Alan Moore based. We're going deep there. But you know, battle-wise at this period, Def was a huge name, and it's really cool to see him over there, isn't it? This is obviously his second appearance there, but I think King of the Dot took so warmly to him as a character. Yeah,
it's weird. It's weird to think about who American and Canadian crowds like from over here, or who it is that specifically. There's some people that have gone out there and they're just like, yeah, whatever. I always get the impression that the guys that are quite funny here do well in Canada, because they don't want to hear sort of guys doing super heavy wordplay from the UK, because in their heads they want us to just be funny and silly.
Yeah.
Because they kind of want it to validate what their impression is of the UK. But I suppose Deffinition is done well in that he's kind of done both, and he's kind of established himself over the years. Because I think he did the first 5 World Doms, didn't he?
Yeah. He was on some sort of scale. I mean, Soul's kind of a bit of an anomaly there. They seem to love Soul as well, who is funny, but he kind of bars out over there.
Yeah.
You know, they sort of endear him to him. And we have introducing as well. He always spells his name in what he's like EURGH. He always says that after his name, which I guess, you know, his Twitter thing's gonna be there, but whatever. Cool to see Bishop shouting out flight distance in the intro.
Yeah. This is the bit where as well, like, we'll get on to Bender in a bit, but I only started listening to Flight Distance pretty much after Bender passed, because everyone was going on about it so much, and it's good stuff. I've only just started sort of listening to it. But yeah, I mean, there was a bigger emphasis on, you know, check this guy's music or check the battles music. They put that out before the battles at this event, which is it makes it feel like, maybe this is also just part of the nostalgia of it, that I kind of like, being such a kind of wee hip-hop purist that I am. But I love this idea that when you look at the flyer and stuff, they say, you know, they had all the beatbox stuff, they had b-boy events, and every single, a lot of the MCs in the card, you know, it was all check their music, check this, check that. It wasn't just like a bespoke battle event where they would just scream at each other and call each other dicks for an hour and a half. It was an actual hip hop event. Do you know what I mean? I feel like World Dom 2, that's one of the reasons it seems like a really authentic kind of vibe, and everyone's really digging it, just because they're all there to actually embrace it and take it seriously. So I feel like its heart's in the right place almost.
Definitely. There was a beatbox battle as well, I believe, at this event. A graffiti session. There were comedy skits as well by Keith Pedro, I don't know who the hell that guy is. But yeah, there was sort of an eclectic mix of things here. And unfortunately, this is one of a few battles of this event, John, that's marred visually. I was wondering what was happening, because you'll see in a few battles, it also happens to Saurus as well, where, you know, they lose the visual and they have to just replace it with some fairly nicely edited, fairly dramatic, static photos. And I asked Deffinition this, actually, what the hell happened? And he texted me this morning, actually. He said, yeah, they had 2 cameras and both just overheated and turned off. It was a fluke that it happened on both. I think it was just me and that it happened to. We were pissed. I sent a massive message to them kicking off. They knew the whole week, but only told us 10 minutes before the flight. It wasn't a happy journey.
Oh, fuck that, man. I didn't even know that. To be honest, I don't think it damages it too much. Maybe in terms of views, some of those battles don't do as well, but I think
it's still watchable, definitely. Yeah,
it's still very watchable. Yeah, and I feel like you get the third round. To be honest, I'm not overly fussed. As much as I was saying how much I love the way the event is shot, I'm not overly fussed as long as you can kind of see the angles being shot from up above as well. It's more in the hour battle where it is just pictures for 2 rounds essentially. It kind of grates me a little bit more, because you can't get as much out of you can't really see how they're performing and their sort of visual energy or whatever, because that does add to it, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely. And in the Nestle Lopeshi bout, which we'll get to, for a lot of Nestle's round, you're sort of watching the back of Lopeshi's head Like, you know, you're seeing from a different angle, so it's kind of, it doesn't imbue it with the intensity that you need. If you just audio booking it and listen to the words, I mean, the content is still there, but, you know, it's a minor slip-up. This was a huge deal. Everyone says in the interviews, post and pre, that this is the biggest battle rap event of all time, at that time, and it definitely was. It was groundbreaking, so there's, you know, bound to be a few hiccups. Deffinition rocking the Magneto hat, which is great to see. And D-Lor's an interesting figure. I mean, he goes back quite a while. I remember when I had Eric Foreman on the show, and they actually battled on the King of the Alcatraz event, which is kind of an odd matchup. And, I mean, he has skill, he has talent, but he's just not that memorable for me. I don't think he's capable of writing a real effective punch that lingers.
Yeah, my thing about with D-Lor is, I suppose, it's funny because he says to Deffinition, doesn't he? He says, "Why do you rap so loud?" Yeah. But then Deffinition flips it, and I'm so happy that he flips it because he raps really, really loud too, and not in a kind of sort of just a projection way in the way Def does it. I feel like it's just really, really grating. Yeah. And it just his voice just kind of cuts through me, especially in the kind of second round, where he's doing all that kind of he's doing this quite sort of dense scheme, and then he goes into how nobody cares, and it's just like, you just irritating, man. Like, his writing's fine, I just think his delivery is just really, really off. And also, I don't know, some of his multis go on a little bit, especially in the third, where he does that bit, he kind of rhymes, you know, multiple laceration, the blah 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 blah, cultural validation. It reminded me a little bit of you know, Rob Wilson's verse against whoever it was that Big T went in on. Oh, yeah. Where he just goes on and on and on. It's just like, dude, just...
The innuendo
just
verse. Yeah,
innuendo, yeah. It's not really kind of...
It's not effective, no. It's kind of impressive in of itself in sort of a forum realm. But yeah, in a live battle, and I think Def wins this quite clearly. Really, has some nice stuff in the first, lay down the law like a hammer in court, and the whole default character on SmackDown when you create a wrestler. And, what's interesting is, because the angle's reversed, you get to see a very rare thing in battle rap. You get to see what the battlers actually see. Like, you get to see the cameraman looking at them, and my God, Avocado looks so young. Like, I know it's 2011.
With his hair looking up, he looks like a Dragon Ball Z character.
Before his day was ever ruined, you know. This is early Avo.
Yeah, it's kind of cool seeing that sort of side of it. I suppose it is. I actually find as well, it's weird because I feel like when it's got the main sort of event and the lighting's on it, it looks so professional that you feel like it's almost sort of timeless. Yeah. Whereas when it's shot from that back sort of phone and you see how young everybody is and the quality isn't good, it ages it a little bit more, and you kind of just feel like, oh yeah, this really is of its time. But yeah, no, I mean, this is, as I say, I think Def wins this. You could make an argument that D-Lor won the first, but I think because I think he has a by definition scheme. Like, by definition, you must be by it. That's all right.
Yeah.
I just feel like his delivery is a bit OTT. I think Deffinition, he really charms the crowd with little sort of silly references, and he plays up to the kind of British stereotype as well, because it's one of those things like he can be like, he can joke about being gangster, and Canadian fans are like, ah ha ha ha. They think it's really funny. And he also has that Rick James sort of reference, doesn't he, where he's like, it's a celebration, like at the end of each round, because he says it's the first moment in all of his life somebody's to diverse about calling him white, which is nice. If you're the American Dream, I'm the British Nightmare. You need a group hug so bad right now, which hits really hard at the end of the first. What he said is, where he goes, "Oh, don't diss accents because yours is just as lame. When you shout homie, it sounds like Marge screaming a husband's name." And Def wins, and something I've never really seen in battle rap before, where the opponent wins and the D-Lor goes mad with the celebrations. He goes crazy. He goes over the top, and Def's just sort of looking at him a bit bemused, and I think most people are. That's the first bit of the battle. I found him quite likeable. I thought it was quite funny. Yeah. But, I mean, he sort of took it on the chin, I suppose. Yeah, well, because he still thinks he won in the ouch. I suppose maybe his style at that time translated to the crowd a little bit, because the judges, I think a couple of judges maybe gave it to him, but I don't know. I feel like, other than the Tricky P battle, which we're going to come on to in this one or next, it was, I think Deffinition genuinely won every single World Dom battle he did, that I can think of anyway. I don't think he lost one. Yeah, so, PH, Dirtbag, Saurus. Yeah. Saurus is debatable. Debatable, yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I don't think Saurus that perhaps wasn't a battle that he was putting his all into. But but yeah, good. Yeah, all these well done battles were good for, I'd say, as well, at least to an extent. I feel like Deffinition is just every single battle he's in. I know he's not really battling now, but and it's also something that maybe made this event is because I feel like at the time, King of the Dot was similar to Don't Flop in that there were more personalities. So even though the Paul Riches or Tricky Peas have kind of slipped down the food chain, I'm kind of nostalgic for that time where they had a bit more variety and they weren't trying too hard to be URL or whatever. So
Definitely.
I feel like Deffinition, he was another colourful character that they could embrace, and at that time it really worked with what they were doing brand-wise. So yeah.
Yeah, and definitely in the exit interviews talk about being annoyed that lesbian scenes from Black Swan were taken out on the airplane, sort of censored version here. And and he says very simply, which kind of sums up every battle ever, the stuff he said was good, the stuff I said was good, that's it, the end. Def's a very poetic guy, so it's nice to see him concluding in that way. We get to the next battle, which is kind of, really what you want to see with World Dom. You want to see these unusual figures from exotic lands that we maybe haven't encountered before. Shout out Enigma, I should say. I had Enigma on the show. I don't know when this episode's going to come out. I think this will be released after the Enigma Battle Rap Resume episode. Fantastic episode. Awesome guy. Really interesting guy. We spoke about this battle at length. What did you make of him versus Aftershock?
Do your country couldn't trust me to even go back homewards to ironic Enigma had become pretty goddamn known that their embassy assumes that my future's fucked. As if I haven't paid dues and intend to continue, including the plane's fuel, that I'd be so rude as to elude your troops just to mooch off of your community's funds. Shit. The motherland already.
How about Ghostface or Ray? He's like, new woo, hate it. He's trying to monetize off of hip hop. You see the views Mook's making? He's got boxes of bootleg battle shit all over his room and basement. He's got that new Sharon tee. A papoose, you faggots. Comes a free FUBU bracelet, says Zulu Nation. If you're here for a week, I bet you're broke by Sunday. Chump change. You couldn't make a deposit in a blood bank. See, what I'm making one day, you call a month's pay. I'll put your kids through school with what's made on my lunch break.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's not such of a battle. I think it's one of the few I hadn't. I think there was a couple that I hadn't watched before we were prepping this sort of pod. And for some reason, I'd always overlooked this one. It's good. I suppose it's not sort of the most bar-heavy battle compared to some of the others, but it's kind of, for the kind of vibe of the event, I'm kind of glad it happened. And I don't know, Enigma, it's funny because he says something about, in the comments, how English is his first language, even though Aftershock says, it isn't really. But I don't know, I feel like Aftershock, when he says, I didn't realise they had a battle scene, I'm thinking, theirs is way bigger than Canada's. Like, I don't know, does he run Flip Top?
He does, he's the CEO and founder of Flip Top.
Because that explains, because he's not got too many battles, he's only got a few, but they're all quite well viewed.
Yeah, he's battled Pesci over there, and then he battled Dirtbag Dan, and, he's kind of like their disaster in a certain sense where he'll face the newcomers. I mean, his battle after this on World Dom 3 against Step Easy is way better. And we spoke about this on the episode, that he was sort of finding his feet a little bit. And I think the writing's very good from him, but the delivery's a little garbled, it's a little quick. People are listening, it's not a kind of World Dom 5 crowd or a Blackout 6 crowd. They're patient, but he's not giving them too much to latch on. And I think Aftershock is just, maybe not a better writer here, but he just has that clarity that wins the day.
Clarity's the word I picked out as well. I think, because you're right, I've seen Enigma in other sort of battles. I've seen his Fredo battle.
He's good in that. Yeah, it's a good battle.
And I don't know, I feel like he improved on his sort of, he learned to slow down a bit, and he can flow here as well. And he's got that kind of, his accent's really strong, and so you have to really concentrate on what he's saying, and I feel like some of it gets a little bit lost, maybe. But and also, obviously, he has a couple of stumbles. When he actually does get his sort of bars out, they're good. I feel like one thing that hurts him is, I think he mentions this as well, Aftershock, I think he asked for the rounds to be cut a bit short. So his rounds seem really short compared to others in the event. So it's quite a short battle. I don't know, I mean, Aftershock, I don't know what you think of him, but he's all right. I think he rhymes a lot. In his patterns, he kind of rhymes in little clumps almost. He doesn't drag stuff out too much. And I actually find that doesn't always work well for battling, because it doesn't sound like he's building up too much. He just sounds like he's rhyming a lot. So it's a strange thing, but I just feel like he won this just because his delivery was a bit stronger, and he had a few more schemes that were just a bit, as you say, clearer.
Yeah, there's a lot of empty multi-stacking from him in the first. Street sweepers and heat seekers. Put your team leader in a deep freezer, and it, you know, in 2011 you'd be like, ah, but now I'm just like, you know, it's not as fulfilling for me, and it's a bit of a shame. And Enigma sort of does the same stuff in his second, where he's talking about, like, I don't really know what he's computer blueprints left in ruins, like when the Matrix, you know, just kind of all that sort of stuff here. And you know, it's nice, and he talks about them sort of, you know, both writing their stuff and having less time, as you're saying, it was It's a slightly odd matchup, and I'm glad that it happened for the vibe of the event. I do agree, but you know, and I think Enigma has quite a funny third as well, where he talks about how can stereotypes apply. I've been in the city for some time and seen you like 50 times.
Yeah, I think his third was probably his best one. I think, as you were saying, maybe see all that Matrix stuff and all that kind of stuff. He kind of, I think maybe he's compensating because he's thinking, I really need to show that I can't just speak English well. I can kill it, you know what I mean? And I think he realised maybe in late battles he didn't need to try that hard. He could just kind of just do his own thing, and people would appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, I think Aftershock does win it, and I think the judges give it to him. Actually, Nameless, it's the first time he says he uses the 2.0 judging system, so that's history right there.
And in the interview as well, Enigma, and we said this in the Battle Resume interview as well, you know, he's very hard on himself. And, you know, he feels like he let a lot of people down. And it's kind of good, actually, in a certain sense, because Protege, who came with him from the Philippines, like, murders Diaz, which we'll get to on the next episode, the second day episode. And, yeah, this is again, it's a nice little bit of, you know, miscellany. But we'll get to the next battle, which is a huge battle. This has, you know, 750,000 views at the time of us recording this. This is Madchild versus Dirtbag Dan.
Your little biceps are filled with creatine. If I blocked this fucker, he'd be seeing things. On some Tito Ortiz shit. Drop him quick and then lock him in a guillotine. What I'm saying is, if you choose to flex, I will beat your little ass with your shoes to death.
An intermediate not worth my time, because you're a stand-up comedian with words that rhyme. Now how you gonna challenge disaster, motherfucker? I made Balance, Bad Dreams, then Black Magic after. And we just put out Daggermouth. Welcome to the Dragon's House. Name one fucking song that you can brag about!
I've got to say, most of the time when leagues put battlers into, you know, battling battles, I don't really know who the battler is. You know, I didn't really know who Copyright was, you know, or I'm trying to think who were some other people that have came into battling that have sucked. Joe Budden, I didn't really know who he was, but I was aware of.
You hadn't heard of Joe Budden?
I hadn't heard of Joe Budden before. He battled
not even Slaughterhouse. Or anything.
No, just wasn't. Yeah, wasn't really aware of that. But it's more, and so I watched you from afar, John. You know, that was my more wheelhouse back in those sort of days. But
me too, man. I loved all that shit as well.
Oh man, I need to check out their new album. I saw you did a review of that. I haven't actually listened to that yet.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah. Not to go off too tangent.
No. But
yeah, I suppose Joe Budden's one of these people. I don't really listen to his music, but he's quite a name.
He's a bit of a figure. Yeah, he definitely was a bit of a figure. But Madchild, who hails from Swollen Members, I was aware of. Their album Bad Dreams, I think, is absolutely fantastic. You know, it's the only one of theirs that I've heard, but I really, really enjoyed that record. So this was a bit of a coup for King of the Dot to get such a huge name against Dirtbag.
I mean, I rate it's just Swollen Members, like, in terms of their beats and stuff. It was back in the day when I used to sort of, when I was studying and all the rest of it, one thing I used to do is I used to make playlists of, like, my favourite hip-hop beats, and I used to, like, just a lot of instrumentals, and it was back when I was first listening to, it wasn't even, for ages, I didn't even realise who a lot of these guys had produced, like The Alchemist and Evidence and a lot of these kind of guys, and one of them was always, Swollen Member stuff, and I was like, oh, they've got some sick stuff, and so when Madchild, when I didn't clock until years later that he was actually part of that. I don't know, I just thought he was some weird Canadian dude that they wheeled out, and I didn't understand why he got so much hype, because he's this weird kind of funny, intense looking guy.
Yeah, he's an interesting cat. I mean, Deep End people might be familiar with. That's their big song that I certainly heard. And you know, Dirtbag Dan was kind of, I think he battled Mac Lethal beforehand on Grind Times. He was kind of their guy to battle these established stars, and the Mac Lethal battle's great. Mac Lethal just mocks Dirtbag Dan how much
He
money,
does, yeah.
how much more money he has than him, and how much of a failure he is, and like, you know, Madchild doesn't. He kind of does that. We'll get into it, but you know, very cool. This battle went down. KRS-One apparently sponsored this battle.
Sick.
You know, Zay hailing, as DBD always is, of his self-help tapes. Madchild asks the crowd, "Who here is proud to be fucking Canadian? Let's make history." I mean, he battled Daylight as well. That battle has 1.2 million views. He's from Canada's best-selling, you know, hip hop group, so it's a huge deal.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's hard for us. I suppose it would be like, I don't know,
sort of like a boy better know or something battled, like, you
yeah.
know,
If I don't know. I mean, maybe it's slightly different because a lot of those grime guys sort of used to go. But
Sure,
I'm trying to think of something.
If Mike Skinner battled O'Shea,
yeah, or Plan B or something.
Plan
Said I'm
B,
gonna battle.
If Jess
you'd be
battled.
like, that's sick. If Jess battled, yeah. Although maybe it would just be all the heads that cared about that. It would just be us going, yeah, Jess won 3-0.
Jess versus Soul, Jesus, yeah.
Maybe that's this. Maybe that's this. To be honest, maybe there's an element of that in Canada. I suppose maybe to them, someone like that coming through. It's kind of almost like in America when, well, again in King of the Dot, when they had Cannabis v Diz, you can see people in the crowd reacting because they're like in awe of who it is.
Yeah.
His record. And
the wise owl looks at the crowd. It's like, what? But everyone goes mad for that.
They're like, wow, I'm just in his presence. This is amazing. Like, but like, I don't know. Madchild, I think he has a little bit of that in this battle. I feel like people react just because it's him. A little bit.
Sure. And I think Madchild grows as the battle goes on, and I think DBD is more fallow, and I think he, you know, the momentum gets drained from him. I think Madchild's first isn't that good. You know, Homie have the worst sound. Rap Like Kids that hire me for verses that are turned down. That's good.
Yeah. No, he's got some good stuff. I suppose your enjoyment of Madchild as well, I suppose, depends a little bit on how you like his voice and his delivery and stuff, because he's really, really nasal sounding.
Yeah.
He has a lot of kind of jokes that I really like, but I suppose when he's kind of being a bit more threatening, I'm like, because I mean, I feel like it's weird because it's one of those things you notice in the comments. It's like commenters like, oh, Dirtbag Dan is just a comedian that rhymes and stuff, and I feel like people commenting that are just kind of standing Madchild just because they don't really understand how battle rap works, or like the fact that, especially at that time, that was a style that was pretty good. I like some of Madchild's stuff, but he does have a few sort of dragony punchlines, you know, guarding fortresses and shit, and I'm like, oh, whatever.
Yeah.
And like
just mixtape verses that he's just throwing out, like,
recycled cypher verses. I don't know. I mean, Dirtbag Dan, I think he's not got too many hot punchlines in it, to be fair, but I think I do just identify with his style a little bit more. He's just funny. And
yeah. He has some prophetic shit in his first. Last week about Cadillac, 2 drug addicts back to back, and he talks about the glory days that they've gone through. You know, how he's a bit washed up, wishes everything beyond bad dreams was a bad dream. And you know, DBD. I don't know why I keep calling him DBD, by the way, but DBD is from that era. You Look Like bars. And if you can do a good You Look Like bar, you can win a battle. And I think You Look Like one of the biker mice from Mars is crazy. Yeah,
I feel with Dirtbag as well, he's one of these guys that just like, he's got that sort of really sort of half-hearted, not half-hearted approach, but I feel you can tell he's enjoying it, and the whole time it's just like, he's the sort of guy, he obviously finds his own stuff funny. Yeah. When he's writing, he's just like, oh, that'd be hilarious, I'll throw that in. And he's just got that funny laugh, and he's just enjoying himself, and I suppose that always translates quite well, because even in his battles where he's not too great, I appreciate that. So maybe, I don't know, it's a little bit of a style clash, I think, this
Definitely.
one. But
yeah. I mean, the epitome of it, the worlds they're coming from. You know,
I mean, I'm aware that so far, just because we're on day one, like I've not gone through too many battles I love, considering this is like my favourite event. Mm-hmm. It's just because I suppose like my least favourite ones are kind of near the front of the sort of card. Yeah. But I mean, this is, I suppose, where I do think that from here on, I think the battles really go up a notch. Yeah. And also just the vibe as well is just people really start in the crowd, just really start enjoying themselves, I feel like. And also there's that mad dude in the gorilla mask at the side, and just, I don't know, there's just this, it's the little touches to it that make it, I suppose.
Completely. Yeah. I love that gorilla guy. I don't know if he's Swollen Members affiliate or something like that, and Madchild, you know, he has an okay second. He calls himself a goblin, as you say, head spinning like a record, and he doesn't quite go at Dirtbag much in this round, although he does sort of kick off towards the end of it. This is my first film battle, and it's awkward as shit. Make 21 records platinum and come and talk to me, bitch. I mean, a huge reaction to that, because it just plays to his strengths, doesn't it?
I mean, if I was a record-making, platinum-selling artist, or whatever the fuck he is, I'd probably do that as well, and just be like, you're just a battler, and I've done this. And I feel like that stuff sort of, you're going to work to your strengths, aren't you? And it might seem obvious, but I mean, that's a way he can separate himself from his opposition and sort of kind of belittle a guy who's a lot more established within battling than he is, and he's probably more experienced. It's his way of coming and saying, listen, I might not be well known in a cappella battling, but I've been doing this for years, blah blah blah, and I can still say I'm the man because of this. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like in style preference, I prefer Dirtbag Dan in this battle, but I could see people giving it to Madchild if that's what they're into. Again, I feel like when he goes into sort of his goblin bars or whatever the fuck he's on about, I don't give a shit about that. But
no,
but some of his punches are pretty good.
Yeah. I actually have him winning. I do have Madchild winning. I don't think Dirt is that strong going through it, to be honest with you. I think his first is quite strong. In his second, he talks about the Sharks losing in the conference final to the Stanley Cup that clearly has no impingement on Madchild at all. And Madchild's third is really quite good, actually. He kicks off quiet, lots of goblin multis, as we say. He's a stand-up comedian with words that rhyme, you know. And then he does what I've been wanting him to do the whole battle, ragging on Dirtbag Dan. I'm an established music star. You're a nobody in the scheme of things, you know. He gets beats by Alchemist. She gets beats by Skylar G. Shout out to Skylar G, who was a fixture of the Dirtbag Dan show in the early days. You know, I've shared the stage with Snoop Dogg, Nickelback, and Coldplay. You've got a backpack with a toothbrush, Nickelback, and Colgate. I mean, this stuff's explosive. Yeah,
I think in terms of... It's one of those things as well, mate. Again, I'm not just hating on him because of his delivery, but I do feel like some of it kind of like... When you break it down bar for bar, he's probably a better writer when it comes to it at the end of the day. I mean, I'm shout out to him as well. He's translated well to the format of battle rap.
Yeah,
I actually really liked his Daylight battle, and that's partly because I'm not actually a huge fan of Daylight, much like yourself, Tom.
Yeah.
And I actually always had Madchild winning that one. This one, I don't know. I think you're possibly right. He probably gets the second and third, but it's not something that I was really sort of breaking down bar for bar as much, I suppose. But as I say, I mean, along with the next two battles from this day, and then pretty much everything on day two almost, this is where it starts to. I think there's something in the air from this battle onwards that is something special. Do you know what I mean? So for that reason alone, it's something that that I kind of enjoy and appreciate.
Yeah. I mean, and he closes it with, I've sold 800,000 CDs. It's all on a list. I check your numbers on SoundScan. You do not exist. Which, you know, yet again, it's just going punch for punch. DBD doesn't really say anything. I'll promise, listen, I'll stop saying DBD. He doesn't really have much. DBD. There's lots of division in the comments, and I personally think that you know, Dirtbag puts his foot off the pedal really towards the end. And Madchild in the interview talks of learning more, you know, and growing, and maybe we'll see him back again. I'd like to get him on the show. Actually, I'll see if I can reach out to him. It'd be cool to discuss these battles.
Dirtbag or Madchild?
I've had Dirtbag on actually. I'd like to get Madchild.
Oh, so you have actually?
Yeah.
I've listened to that one.
Yeah. There's so many. There's so many. Yeah. So we
I used to listen to Dirtbag's show back in the day. I feel like there was a lot of stuff that I kind of used to. I found myself skipping through because I only really listened for the battle sort of stuff. And I feel like it's now got to the point where I suppose Ruin Your Day kind of do a similar thing.
Yeah. And
it's possibly not that I sit through all 2 hours of them, but you know, sometimes it's a nice thing to have on just because it as much as I'm not a huge fan of reactions videos, with the exception of sort of, I don't know, Big Quint or like Jay Black's old ones as well for battle rap.
Yeah.
I feel like
they're more insight though, aren't they, than reaction? I know what you're getting at, but they're more just commentary.
Commentary, yeah. Battle rap always needs that stuff. You want to hear from the guys that were involved in it and hear their insight from on other stuff. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like in America, a lot of the podcast sort of stuff doesn't really appeal to me because a lot of it's really, really URL centric, and I've not watched URL much recently, so I'm not as up to date with a lot of the references of what they're talking about. So it's nice. You kind of want something where they're looking backwards at what's come before, and they can kind of give you insights on stuff that you already know about and you already like. So yeah, maybe it's a comfort thing, but other than your podcast, Tom,
thank you. No, of course, John. Of course, yeah. No, they just ruined your day. Just released Soul vs Raptor, where they had like Chiller, Saurus, Illmac, Lush, and it's like Saurus in particular is a gifted pundit. Like, I love hearing him talk about battles and break shit down. Like, what a legend. I mean, all of the people on that Ruin Your Day were a legend, but, you know, him in particular. So we move on to a classic, you know, of World Dom 2, Bender versus Illmaculate.
Let's just get this title shit out the way. I told him the title's an idle thing. It's the mind that's behind the name, and promised the tides would change. Y'all saw the decline in weight. He went to being less chubby, but seeming less hungry. It's not an unlikely trade. Now, he keep her dipped out. Pay attention. He keep her dipped out, really though. She gets a nice deal. He'll take her shopping for anything she wants, as long as it's not a pair of high heels.
First of all, John, I just want to pay respect yet again to Bender. Terrible about his passing, right?
Yeah, I was upset. I was really upset to hear this because not just because he was one of the best, but just because there's a lot of guys in battle rap with ego who I feel like sort of carry it too much outside the battles as well. Do you know what I mean? They kind of, you know, they act out and sort of don't treat their fans as they should, or don't speak to people like human beings. Do you know what I mean? And I think the one time I met Bender would have been 5th birthday, and he was so sound. I think we just talked about the fact that his name was Buchanan. Do you know what I mean? And so yeah, Scottish origin and all the rest of it. And he was just super funny and sort of laid back. And he was happy to chat to anybody. Do you know what I mean? Oh, yeah. And also just his level of talent. I was watching some of his sort of tribute videos. People were talking about their favourite bars. King of the Dot did one, Ruin Your Day did one. Obviously, I think Don't Flop had the best of as well, didn't they? But I mean, the one that always got me though was his Arcane battle for the title, where he was basically, he had that whole scheme where he said, This man is corny, tasteless, average, boring, basic, bland and formulaic, vastly short of greatness. Stand before me, shake the hand of your replacement. Like, first time I watched that, I was like, this guy, in terms of just writing, he spoke with such authority, and like his writing was just so fluid. It's just there was no one doing it at his level at the time. I can't remember. I don't know if that was the first battle I watched, but it was one of the early ones. I was just like, damn, he's so good. So yeah, I mean we can't pay a tribute to him other than having met him once and sort of enjoying his battles. But I was really upset to hear that.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I don't think I've mentioned on the show since it's happened, but Danny Jack actually put on a little memorial thing at Fiddler's Elbow, and quite a few of us went down and watched battles. And it was really good just to catch up and reminisce, you know. And shout out to Danny for putting that on, actually. That was really good of him. And yeah, you know, a tragic loss made all the clearer through this battle. You know, what a wonderful battle. I think this was after he lost the chain to Sketch Menace, I believe. I think narrative is where this went down.
Robbery.
Yeah, definitely. Ilmac in the intro saying that, you know, he made it through customs. That was his one chance. Now that he's fucked. And one thing I want to point to, John, the intro graphics of World Dom 2, you can't help but feel nostalgic, right?
Yeah, they're really, really awesome. I don't know if it's Avocado who does that as well, possibly, or if it's another graphic artist. Likely, but I mean, it's also a compliment to people like Kruger and Don't Flop that they're even mentioned as being as good as what King of the Dot were doing, because I feel like some of their early sort of intros and stuff, and even through to the really sort of dramatic ones they were doing as well for a while. Like, I know Avocado's got a background in film, and you can really see that in sort of the cinematic nature of them. But yeah, no, really, really cool intro, and I think it drops their music at the start as well, doesn't it? So.
It does, yeah, and it's got that sort of Like, you know, you'll sort of recognise that. The old map of Canada, the World Dom 2, you know, the flag emblazoning each of their names. And
yeah, it's iconic, man.
It really
For me, when I think of King of the Dot, I think of World Dom 2 intros, man. I think of especially when it goes towards the end, the King of the Dot. They're never going to beat that, man. That was the one.
yeah, you're right. I mean, and this battle is outstanding. I don't need to tell anyone listening that has seen this battle. It is incredible. I mean, you know, Bender kicking us off. Call you my British mistress when I lay you out in a second flat. Crazy.
Yeah. I think actually it's a weird one, right? Because having said how much, for me, Bender was one of the greatest writers ever in battling, and obviously he had Solon the other day or whatever talking about how much he learned from Bender and all the rest of it. But I feel like his strength in this battle, because bearing in mind this is one of Illmac's greatest all-time performances, and virtually nobody would have beaten him. I actually think Bender's strength here is actually more his performance. I think he really sort of styles on him and just sort of lumbers about in this battle, and I always appreciated it. I also really loved his impression of Illmac, where he sort of he does that sort of listen.
Yeah.
That is so on point. Like Bender always was. He's always very perceptive with his opponent's sort of styles and the sort of little traits, and I enjoyed that.
Yeah, and just original short jokes as well. Riding a golf court around the mini putt course, which I really like. Ain't a mountain to shit, just a mountain of shit. I think hog tie this mogwai. There's just some delicious stuff from here as well. And I like how Illmac pulls back the Saurus line in his first. For the rest of this battle day, not to sweat like a retard and lose breath.
Every one bar. Yeah. Obviously, that's a classic battle, Saurus Illmac. Which, you know, they actually covered that on During the Day as well, and I always thought that was well, it was always really considered a close battle, but I think they always had sort of Illmac taking it sort of 3 rounds to 1 or whatever it was because of the OT, and I always actually thought that it was probably even, like 2 each or whatever. I always thought Saurus took, I can't remember what it is now, but Illmac probably did edge that battle, which is, you know, I think his record against other legends, with the exception of like maybe Conceited or whatever, I think his record is just phenomenal. Like that's why he's one of the all-time greats. Yeah. I did have Bender in the first of this battle though. I think Illmac takes a little long to get going, but
yeah. The sort of sketch stuff, the title stuff. We get a temple tap from Illmac as well. You know, him losing all the titles in the world. Untitled, the only title he's entitled to since he blanked all the titles on the line. Kind of like similar to Tony D's con scheme. You know, battlers can get, you know, really absorbed in that monomaniacal sort of delivery there. Having smashed till his face don't match his passport is crazy.
I think they're so well matched, Illmac and Bender. I suppose you can see it. I suppose as it goes on, that one of the reasons Illmaculate wins this, I think in the end, spoiler alert, my thoughts anyway, I think, and this is a compliment to Bender, he wins almost by sort of doing Bender's style back at him, because it's a compliment to him that he would do it, but he really, the quality of his multisyllabics and the quality of his sort of long-winded punches in this battle, Illmac, are really, really, really good. It's just the level of writing. He knew he needed to raise his game to win it, I suppose. And I think, obviously, Illmac, he really styles on him in that second where he's talking about the Old Spice commercial and look at him, back to me. And he really builds it up really nicely. I think that was the point where the pendulum shifts, the momentum kind of swings a little bit back to Illmac's favour. I didn't know down Bender's bars in the second, actually, really, which I probably should have. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I feel like I had it 1 each, as they say.
Yeah. Bender, I think Illmac probably has a few more haymakers in the second, a few more interesting angles. Bender just has more delicious stuff for me. Told you I'll beat Deep Blue in 3 moves. Get your face looking like a Rorschach. Share a place with Sharon Tate. I kill actresses. Just wonderful.
Those are both really good bars, actually. The Rorschach line, that's nice.
Yeah, the Rorschach line is crazy. Shout out Walter Kovacs. And you know, Illmac has some good stuff with the Old Spice thing, as you say here, and I do think Illmac wins it. And Illmac references something that gets referenced a few times throughout World Dom, the sort of handy bouncer that was like, manhandling a lot of people.
And it reminds me of the don't know if what is about iconic events and famous
fourth
bouncers.
birthday, the big
fourth
dog.
birthday, man. Yeah. They have that amazing video of where he comes up on stage and he's like, I'm in a state of grace. Do your thing and all that sort of thing. And you just see Arsenal and all that in the background, just like, say it again, giving it all that.
Yeah.
Really,
I'm the only thug in this building. I love how Arsenal brings it back. Yeah.
Yeah, folks should look that video up as well.
Yeah.
Just like, the body bag from the security guard. But we don't see him in the King of the Duck one.
No, we don't. We don't.
But,
he gets referenced a fair bit. But so yeah, you've got Illmac taking the win. I mean, Illmac takes the judge win, but you've got that reflected, yeah.
Yeah, I think Illmac in the third is one of the all-time great rounds in battle rap. Honestly, like I can't stress how sick I think. I don't know. I think he has that sort of chubby chasing flip, which is pretty good, and he's kind of enjoying himself. But then also just the density of his rhymes as well. Like, obviously, I have to point out Maury Talk Show and a blade that was made by Hattori Hanzo.
Yeah.
Like, that's so good. Like, it's not just about, for me, that's the sort of stuff that people like. We've mentioned Soul a couple of times now. The reason Soul, I think, is so good is I think he's really inherited that skill of when Illmac and sort of Bender were at their best. It wasn't just about sort of always trying to be super clever with double entendres when doing wordplay. It was using really hard-hitting references to sort of build up to something that's just really direct and is heavy, but also gets you thinking, and also there's an image, and also it just really comes across really powerfully. I mean, that's my favourite style of writing as well. And also, I think Illmac also had that bit where he said, you don't have the drive to stick to it when it comes down to the clutch. He had that whole bit, he's saying, run up Big Ben and clean out his clock. Again, these lines, they're not super complex, but they're just perfectly structured and delivered. Yeah. That's what you want from battle. You don't want 101 double entendres and tempo tap sort of shit. Do you know what I mean? You just want it to be hard-hitting. And yes, I really do. I love this battle. And it's Bender's close to his best, Illmac is at his best. That's the way I'd put it. Yeah,
it's an unbelievable exhibition in the third. I completely agree. Yeah, it is an out of this world round. And we get to the final battle of day one. Very controversial battle for a fair few reasons. This is Pat Stay Marvwon.
Pat's problem is not him holding his liquor. It's black American battle rappers homing this nigga. So all that fight live shit, I found out it's all rap. I saw it with all four of my eyes. So my words is all fact. Cause when me and Pest was dancing, the nigga was rah-rah and all that till I walked up on him. Then he decided to fall back.
Look, you're right. In our little beef, after looking at the tape, you think he put me in my place. But a minute and 30 seconds of that footage got erased. See, I got kicked out, said come outside. But they edited that because he cried and complained. And if that ain't the truth, then Corey Sharon lied to my face.
And we open with a flashback, actually, which is interesting. Back to Marv versus Lopeshi, where Pat Stay was trying to get involved in the battle. Clearly quite blottoed there. And Marv going straight over to Pat in the battle as well. Thoughts on this battle, John?
Yeah, I love a good grudge match in battle. And they don't do it enough anymore, really. No. The last one I can think of is when they got Caustic and Arcane to battle, and it was terrible.
Oh man,
did you watch that one?
Yeah, I can't even remember it. I just remember being so disappointed, and it was like Caustic versus Soul as well. I don't know why his grudge matches were. Yeah. I mean, I'd argue me versus Briggsy was the last good grudge match.
Yeah, man. By the way, I've already said this. I'm in the minority who thinks that you won that, man.
I appreciate that. That.
And everyone's gonna listen to he's a shitty little choke artist. Fuck, whatever Def said. Yeah. I mean, maybe that too, Tom. Do you know what I mean? But
right.
But the reason I think you won is because Briggsy doesn't really rap in it or rhyme or do anything really.
Okay.
He has impressions. He performs well. He does a funny sort of fucking skit about you. Mm-hmm. Does he really rap battle? And then he fucks off. To me, it's just like you win by default, man. So
that's the best way to win, I think, rather than a decisive victory. So I appreciate that. And just before we get into the battle as well, quite interestingly, Gully is holding up the new edition of the King of the Dot magazine, which is volume 4. If anyone listening knows where I can get my hands on the King of the Dot magazine, I would love to do an episode about it. So let me know. I will pay money. I would like to own those things. So get in touch with me, battleresume@gmail.com. But you know, a lot of people remember this battle really for Pat Stay's material, which is very controversial. It goes very far. How does it sit with you?
Yeah, I mean, so on one hand, I think whatever battle rap, blah blah blah, you say freedom of speech, blah blah blah. The thing is, if battle rap is this sort of bastion of free speech, or whatever you want to call it, and we discussed this briefly in one of our guests episodes, I think, the other person has the right to get angry and call you out. Because I think, like, people who have this idea that battle rap has just got to be this amazingly sort of, political correctness will ruin battle rap. You can say what you want, blah, blah, blah. It's just like, nah, man. If you're going to do that, people have the right to get called out or even get fucked off with you. Do you know what I mean? I feel like everything has a line, because if we're happy to say that, yeah, blatant racism or like using the N-word in the battle is too far. And everyone was like, Hillsborough bars were too far from, was it unanimous? Or Rhys Jones bars were too far.
Censor.
Oh, censor, yeah. Like, and I still think those, I mean, obviously Hillsborough meant a lot to my family. So when I watched that, I was just like, when I first got into battle rap, and I remember like, yeah, he's a dick for that. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I'm not cool with that. And I remember I mellowed over time thinking, it's just battles, they don't mean it, blah, blah, blah. But it's one of those things where I feel like Pat can say that shit, but just like Marvwon has every sort of right to come back at him and just say and be like, I don't know if Marv swung at him after the battle. I doubt he did, because I think he acknowledges Pat's not being 100% serious. But if he did, I wouldn't have blamed him, because he's talking about his brother in a wheelchair or whatever it was. So
yeah,
or he's got autism. Sorry,
that's right.
So I don't know. I think it's probably too far, but I'm sure people. I suppose in this battle, because I feel like because Marvwon takes it, do you know what I mean, and he doesn't sort of get all angsty about it and he lets it kind of slide. I feel like you almost have to respect that and just come at it at the level he's at. Do you know what I mean? So if he's cool with that, that's up to him in this battle, because I feel like every battle's different. We probably need to have like a wider discussion. Everyone in battle rap probably has to talk about what is the line, blah, 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 at some point, who knows. But I feel like on a case-by-case basis, if Marvwon's dealing with it like that and he's choosing a battle and his ethos is, I'm going to come back at you at it, then that's up to him, do you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. That's a very long and convoluted way of saying I don't really know.
No. I think Pat wins. And it's a bit of a shame that Marv does win, and I think the judges were being a little bit sympathetic, because Marv's first is boring. Marv says literally nothing in his first round, and
I'm going to slightly disagree with you, Tom.
What does he say? Where's the bars in the first round? The heat to his moist ass.
Okay, so I think you're possibly right. I think Pat probably edges it. And what I would come back at it, and this is one of the reasons I love this sort of shit in battle rap, is I think Marv kind of anticipates that Pat, because Pat's such a heel, such a sort of baddie, or whatever, like in wrestling, Marv plays the face, and he plays to the crowd. And even though it's a bit cheesy, and he says, for example, he says, I dedicate money, some of what I earn, to finding the cure, even though I don't think you can really cure.
No, that's came up in a battle. I forgot who mentioned that to Marv. Someone said that to Marv directly, yeah.
Yes, so I'm not laughing at the artisan.
No. I think Shuffle and Marlowe say it in the 2-on-2. I might be wrong. Comment below.
Yeah. Oh, right.
Mate, I might be misquoting.
But I think he does well at sort of, even though he doesn't have too many bars, I think he does well at sort of combating him with the sort of, he comments on, you stole my flow. He goes around the history sort of stuff and works it into an angle, and he makes it that little bit more powerful because he's got that really serious tone to what he's doing. I think it combats what he knows Pat's going to do. I think Pat probably still gets that round, but I don't think it's as one-sided as you necessarily.
Yeah. And Pat is focusing on his autistic brother in the wheelchair. I mean, there's some really horrific stuff that he's saying, him throwing gang signs and Pat asking what crew that he's with and shit like that. And, you know, kicking his metal chair down a set of stairs. And he invokes proof as well, looking down from the clouds, wanting to smack him like the dad you never had right now. And
in terms of structuring, it is flawless.
Oh my
That's
God,
the
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
It's horrible, and it's really ableist and really sort of offensive and nasty. And if anybody spoke like that in real life, I'd be like, you're a complete cunt.
Oh, of course.
And I wouldn't speak. And part of me, so that's why I'm very split on it, because I'm just like, you know what, that's, for me, it probably is too far, but at the same time, it's so perfectly structured. And as a battle rapper, and it's one of his better performances as well.
It's definitely one of his best, yeah.
So yeah, I'm sure people are going to shout at the pod and like, oh, stop being such a pussy, Johnny. He's just doing battle rap, whatever. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I respect how good it is. It's just, I find it hard to enjoy that too much, because I think if you have family or friends or whatever who are disabled, that stuff does hit home. And yeah, I probably think it's too far, but I think also he at the same time he is playing up to a character. Do you know what I mean? Because
it's pantomime. I see it as. I know what you're saying,
yeah.
But I can't.
He's deliberately being the sort of bad guy,
he's being the jock bully. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I think Pat can play the hero role as well. You say he's the heel, but I think when he was King of the Dot champ, he took on a bit more of a sainted element.
True. Against Diz, I think he does.
Because it's funny you say this goes too far in your view. Maybe I can't think of. Maybe it's just my sort of morbid personality. I can't really think of a moment in a battle that I think does go too far, and I've watched a fuckload of battle rap and seen some I think maybe Yunnan saying that he's going to take Pedro's mom to the grave of her dead husband and hold a knife to her throat and ask her to shit on his plot. That was probably the furthest I've ever heard someone go.
I actually don't think that's even that bad. The reason I think that is because it's absurd. And
Yeah.
I feel like if it's absurd and it's obviously absurd, you can kind of laugh off because like you're just being ridiculous. Right now.
Sure.
When it's someone just being gratuitous and just silly, I'm just like, or being serious, I should say. I feel like it almost hits home a little bit more. I mean, I don't know. I feel like in a battle, if it was you and they were coming in with stuff like that, the best defense is to do nothing. But I'd probably have a word after and be like, dude, you didn't mean any of that. I'd hope. Like,
well, I mean, no, yeah,
some of the stuff is just. But I suppose that's what we sign up for, though, isn't it?
It is.
I'm saying all this
it's
shit.
battle rap, bitch. I think that's the one. That's the mantra to keep in your head. Unfortunately, as maybe as derogatory as that is. And the problem is, Marv's second is bad as well. He doesn't strike back at Pat. He has terrible bars. I'll put 2 and 2 together, bitch. You've got nothing for me. That's his closer. And he talks about
that is poor, to be fair.
Yeah, and he talks about hurting Pat Stay's poodle and hurting his granny, and you don't want beef, Pat, namaste, and and I think Pat goes a bit more direct to the second, just you're fat, I've got fat jokes for you, that sort of stuff. But it works better. The back of his neck looks like a ripped pack of hot dogs, and you can cook a barbecue. And Larry Holmes' age got hairy ass legs with varicose veins, and I think Pat's maybe 3-0s him, but somehow Marv wins.
I think he has him 2-1, if I'm honest. But, I mean, I did like Marv's round where, it might have been the second or third, where he mixes up the human, the bars. He says, I run the dark side, Luke, I'm your father. That was pretty nice. And then he obviously, that bit where he's like, he's sad right now, he's going to front like he can't get a cab right now.
Yeah.
He wants to be black so bad right now. That whole scheme is perfectly delivered. I mean, also, I suppose Pat's amazing in this, but he does have the odd bar that everyone sort of quotes as well and goes, oh, that's brutal. But there's little things I pick out, like when he's like, oh, I'll cut his throat slower than a Russian soldier.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why a Russian soldier? What,
yeah. Are they famous for the... Yeah, I don't know.
Do they cut people's throats often? I don't know. But what I do love about this battle, it's really, really direct. It's not too much sort of silly wordplay and over the top sort of shit. It's before King of the Dot kind of got super obsessed with that kind of thing.
Yeah, you're right.
If I do really want that sort of heavy wordplay, I will go to URL because there's some amazing battlers on there that do that sort of thing. But I have to be in the mood for it, and I feel like King of the Dot, I liked when they were quite distinct from that and didn't rely too much on that with their battlers.
Yeah, I mean, Bullets was of that ilk, but you know he didn't battle here, which is a bit of a shame against Word of Play. But yeah, that concludes day one. So let us know in the comments what your favourite World Dom 2 day one battles were. We will be back very soon for the second episode where we're going to go through all these. If you're listening to this at the moment, the episode 2 will be on the Patreon straight away. So if you want to help support us, go onto there. BattleResume@gmail.com. Get in touch with me at BattleResume as well. John, we're going to speak very soon on the second episode, but how do people get at you, your website, your writings?
Yeah, you can go jonathanrimmer.com for all my journalistic shite, and scotlandstandup.co.uk for all the podcasts I do, Scottish hip hop sort of stuff, blogs, all that kind of shit, and at Rimmer Journal on the Twitter.
We'll put all the links below, as we always do. Check out all the stuff me and John have done on the channel before as well, especially our gesticulation series where we go through the oeuvre of the I'm going to call him a battler then, but he's a rapper. Yeah. He's not a battler at all, although he sort of writes in that sort of mode. Jest, we go through his albums track by track.
I was going to say maybe listeners are sick of me coming on this podcast, but maybe a lot of people who are into the battles who don't listen to the Jest podcast. I've never heard this guy before.
No one on Battle Rap Resume listens to gesticulations. No one gives a fuck. I get like 100 views an episode, so you know, shout out to those 100. Shout out those dedicated 100 true fans. But yeah,
so Tony D was sharing it, so shout it.
There we go.
The real heads know. The real heads know.
Poison Poets in the cut, man. So yeah, we'll be back for day 2 of World Dom 2 very soon. Check out that episode. Subscribe, leave us a comment, Patreon, iTunes. John, this has been great. Thanks again, man.
Peace.